Good morning. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us once again this Friday, the 10th of July, on yet another episode of our weekly youth forums powered by Co-Bank. We're very excited. Today is our 22nd episode, and of course, I'll start by appreciating every single one of you who's been part of our online community for the last month that we have been doing this. And just in case today is your first time here, first of all, welcome very much. And if you do want to catch up on all the conversations that we have had previously, you can do that by going back to our social media platforms, Co-Bank Kenya, on Facebook, on X, and on YouTube as well. You will be able to catch up on all the impactful conversations that we have had with different experts right here. Kama kawaida, I'm super excited to always be here with you. My name is Violet Angina. Now, if you remember, last week tulikuwa tunashughulikia wakulima and we were focusing on crops and livestock insurance. Now today, bado tu tutakuwa kwa hiyo sekta ya ukulima. Though this time we will be talking about agricultural exports. Now I know there are many people who wonder, how does nyanya, vitunguu, fruit, coffee, tea from Kenya ends up in someone's cup in the UAE, on someone's plate in the USA? I know there are very many questions on how that works, and I'm also sure kuna vijana wengi ambao wameingia katika sekta ya ukulima and they want to get into exports, but they do not know the roadmap in there. Today we do want to guide you on how you can be an exporter and also on how you as a farmer can make sure that you are tapping into the international market. Now, to unpack this fantastic conversation for us today, we do have a fantastic, this one, she's amazing. A 26-year-old, as young as she is, she's already in the export business and the managing director of Novel Blooms Limited. Ladies and gents, welcome to our set today, Ellen Mudhama.
Thank you so much. Fine, thank you.
Good to have you here.
I'm honored.
Thank you for making time for us today. And I just want you to start by telling us kidogo tu leo kwa hii maneno ya exports, because you are in the export business. What should we expect to learn from you today?
Okay, thank you. So today we are going to discuss the different export produce that do well in the export market. We're going to discuss some of the do's and don'ts in terms of finances, logistics, pack house and warehousing. What should you expect? And even as a young person, you are asking the question, is it possible to get into exports? Ni ya wale wase. So today we are also going to be dissecting that. And I'm happy because I know one thing I'm really hoping to share today is, even as a young person, you can still thrive in exports.
Oh, and you are the living proof of that. At just 26 years old, she's doing so much in the export business, and that's why our topic today is from farm to global markets. Now, kama kawaida, remember this conversation is for you. So you who's watching us from whichever part of the country or the world, kama uko na swali yoyote kuhusiana na mambo ya exports, please feel free to ask those questions. Ellen is here to unpack the questions for us. And as you ask your questions, also let us know, kama wewe ni mkulima, unalima nini? What is the agricultural sector that you are into? And also you can tell us, have you ever sat down ukapiga mahesabu ya ku-export? Let us know. We'd like to pick your brain on matters exporting. Now, jumping straight into the conversation, Ellen, a lot of young people, or rather because it's our culture, I think every Kenyan or African, you're just a farmer by association. Your grandmother has a farm, or your parents. So we all kind of grew up with farms. Hata wale ambao wanaishi in the city, ushago Christmas, so you have the experience of a farm. So farming is our way of life. You farm for your home, for your community, but not all the time. A lot of people have had the thought of, I'm farming for the international market. From where you sit, why is it important for young people ambao wanaingia kwa ukulima wakati huu waanze kufikiria mambo ya export? What are the opportunities that you've seen for agricultural produce in the export market? Ndo nitoke kwa kufikiria, mi nalimia watu wa Ukambani, nalimia watu wa Kisii. Why should we start thinking of getting into export?
Yeah. Okay, you know, a lot of Kenyan produce leaves the country for international markets. When you talk about flowers, we are the third largest producers of flowers in the world, Kenya. Talk about tea and coffee, we export them so much. So there is so much opportunity for Kenyan farmers out there. Why? Because Kenya is not struggling to get space in the export market. We have already established it. So the pathway was already opened. It's for us to infiltrate and do the best we can to get into exports. Number two, exports, they normally fetch premium prices. Something that you sell for, let's say 50 shillings here, maybe per nyanya, the tomatoes, you might be selling it at 150, 200 for the export market. So it fetches premium prices. So it's time for us farmers not to just focus on the local market, but also international markets.
Right.
A smart farmer in this generation knows that the goal is not just to feed a community, but to feed the world. So the opportunity is there. Job creation. You know, exports is just part of the ecosystem because it's very vast. We have logistics, we have the farmer, we have pack house and all that. So when we talk about exports, so many people get to benefit on the value chain. So job creation.
Right.
Let's talk about foreign exchange. Exports is a very key foreign exchange. And so it's very good now once you get into exports because so many foreign currencies are involved. So it gets to earn us those currencies and then the country grows.
Right.
Agriculture contributes to 40% of Kenya's GDP. So there's so many opportunities that lie within agriculture. Exports is one of them.
Right.
So any young person that wants to get into exports, you have to know that it's a part of the whole agricultural value chain.
Right.
It's an ecosystem. It's agribusiness now.
Right.
We are not just doing it in the subsistence way.
Right.
We are now scaling up to do exports, you know, for international markets.
Right. So you're already confirming we have space there and
Yes.
the prices are premium as well. So
Correct.
kuna kijana ambaye anataka kujua ni nini inapendekana sana kwa hiyo international market. Nikuja kama nimepanda kitu gani, you know, because I know that those prime crops, even you from where you sit that you've seen, the demand is very high, whether seasonal or across the year. So that hata kijana ambaye anataka kuingia kwa export ajialign na these crops that will fetch them the good prices in the international market. What are these crops?
Yeah. So I'll begin with the ones that I export, the ones that by virtue of experience I know they are very marketable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about fresh cut flowers and the seasonality is year round, January to December. Tea, coffee, fruits and vegetables, avocados, especially avocados. I know most people know that we really grow avocados for exports. Even pawpaws, passion fruit, name any fruit that you can think
French
about.
beans.
Yeah, French beans, in fact, it's really infiltrating the market right now. Chilies, capsicum, dania. When you talk about herbs, talk about basil,
Parsley.
rosemary, oregano, sage. So there are so many products, especially within agriculture, that we export. Something else is livestock in terms of meat.
Yes.
Dopa sheep, nyama ile ngombe, nini, especially in Muslim countries, sana sana the Middle East region.
Right.
During Ramadan and, you know, the holidays they have, we really export a lot of meat. So within agriculture, I'd say we export both agricultural produce and livestock
as
dairy
well.
products, you know, milk powder, all those things, name them.
Right.
They are all good for exports.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying that. Kwa hivyo kama kuna kijana ambaye alikuwa anashangaa, so what do I grow that will align with the international market? Ellen has mentioned a variety of them, and those are things that we young people are growing. So kama uko na hiyo mimea, just know already uko na entry point to the international market. Now let's get to how did you start, because that becomes the other big question. First of all, ushatuambia uko 26, so you're like, hey, she's young, how did she figure this thing out like that? You know, export feels like such a technical thing for people with a lot of money and many employees. So just take us back to your start. How did this happen? What drove you into this space? Na ni kitu ambayo ulikuwa umesomea shule, or what happened?
Okay, so I studied business and information technology. So to run back, I'll try and shorten the story.
Yes.
My husband works within the agricultural sector. So one day when he was traveling for a certain agricultural, was it a show or an expo? I can't remember. He sat next to a floriculture exporter flowers, floriculture flowers.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, the way you just engage in conversation and someone is telling you, by the way, I normally export flowers, and you was curious to know how does it work. So once he came back, he told me, I think I now know the business we are going to set up, because we were actually on the verge of trying to set up a business where we combine our skills. He's in communications, I'm in business. So
Yes.
what do we do to merge the two things and build an empire or a legacy? So he sat me down and told me, I met someone who's in exports. And I'm like, are you discussing about exports? You know how it's very broad and the magnitude involved and all that. So we sat with that particular exporter and she took us down to every detail of how flower exports works. And we were like, wait, it's not hard, it's not rocket science, it's actually something that even a young person, even someone that's 21 years can actually do. So that's how we tested our faith. And we were like, you know what? I think this is what we can begin.
Right.
And that's how we began with flowers.
Right.
Yeah.
So you started with flowers through an interaction that your husband had with a friend.
Yeah.
But now you're also doing coffee, you're doing tea. So how did you bring all of those together? Did they start at the same time? Ama hii ni kitu pia una scale up pole pole. Unaanza na moja, ukiona pesa imeingia, now I'm fit to start another agri-sector to export. Na tuanze tu hapo pia na capital. How much did it cost when you were setting up at the very beginning? Let's hear those figures.
So what happened, we began with flowers before we scaled to coffee and tea. So for the flower export license is what we acquired at first. Then coffee and tea concurrently. Why did this happen? We got a client who wanted flowers from us from the onset, but that person also buys coffee, Kenyan coffee, and he also has buyers who are interested with Kenyan tea. So when we sat down with the client, we were like, how about we just acquire these 3 licenses? We begin from there.
Right.
We haven't acquired others. Like there's one Chinese client we have, is an investor and wants to purchase omena. We call it silver cyprinide in, you know, the export language. And he wants to get them from Kenya. Now for us, because we are not really experts when it comes to fish and all that, we subcontracted a farmer who already has the fish export license. So it's not a must you acquire all the licenses simply because you're an exporter. If there is something you can pass over to another exporter, then well and good.
Right.
Yeah.
So from the time your husband had that interaction to now the first big order that you had, it was between a span of how long? And again, just take us through the process of setting it up. What was the capital that was needed?
Yeah. So for us, okay, I must say we started a bit high because of the location where we set up our office. So we set up our office at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Of course, the rent charges are quite high.
Yeah.
So I'd say we began with, okay, how do I structure it? I don't know. But I'd say we used like 500,000 to 1 million. But I've also said it's because of the location that we were looking at. It's not a must for you to be there. You know, it also depends what are you trying to achieve as an exporter. You can even set up an office in a place that you're going to use even as low as 100,000, 200,000. So first and foremost, it's setting up the company. So you register the company, you get a certificate of incorporation, then for taxes, the Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, and then now you start acquiring the license. Now, I know we are going to maybe get to that, but that was how it was. So buying furniture, desktop, hiring a secretary, those are the few nitty-gritties we worked on. But I must say, we started from an aggregator point of view. There is someone else who wants to begin as a farmer. If you want to do herbs, you can start with as low as even leasing quarter an acre. If you want to do fruits, because they need quite some amount of land, you can do 1 acre. So it also depends where are you starting off your exports journey. So for us, because we started as aggregators, we definitely needed an office. Yeah.
So what you've just said now is, I don't need to be a farmer to be an exporter.
Not
a lot
at
of
all.
people think, lazima nikuwe mkulima and I have to have like a large piece of land. So help us demystify that, you know, thought that people think, lazima ukuwe mkulima ndo uanze ku-export. Help us understand how someone who's not a farmer can still be in the export market, like you are.
So I must be very honest, most exporters are actually not farmers. So it's not a must to be a farmer. I'm personally not a farmer. Trust me, I don't have even knowledge about farming, because my background is in business, but you can still fit within the whole ecosystem. That's why I said it's an ecosystem. So it's not a must you have a chunk of land for you to begin. So where do most exporters start? The ones I've interacted with, you start as an aggregator. You seek market, you connect it to farmers, you know. So you are the bridge that bridges the seller and the buyer. So once you come in, as you grow with time, you're going to scale up and maybe now say, I think I also need a farm. So it's not an immediate mandatory requirement.
Right.
It's something that you can do as you scale up.
Right.
But I must say, you need to know where your skills and resources are strongest. For us, we knew when we begin with aggregation, it fits us best. Someone else is a farmer. Begin by
From the
farming the
farming point
produce,
of
you
view.
know. Another person is good in logistics and warehousing. Start from there. You are maybe good in processing and
Ellen has made it very clear, si lazima ukue mkulima. You can be an aggregator, you aggregate the produce, and then you connect now the farmers to the international market through the exports.
Yes.
Right. So now let us get into the aspect of ukiingia kama aggregator like you are, you're not a farmer. Wakati ulikuwa unaitishwa the flowers, of course you have to get them from the farmers, all right? So how do you identify as Novel Blooms, how do you identify the farmers that you're going to work with? And probably you can tell us the first consignment, ile ulikuwa nayo ya kwanza, walikuwa wameitisha kama how many kilos or buds or stems of roses, because that's the first thing that you exported, sindio? So give us the quantity so that someone understands what are the quantities that work for export, and then how now you work with the farmers to achieve that.
So remember, we are new in the business. We are a bit green. We definitely don't understand as much. I mentioned that we met an exporter. So we did this first consignment through her and through her company, because we don't know and we also don't want to mess it up. We began, I remember that invoice was worth 500,000. It was like 200,000 stems to the Middle East, if I remember correctly. You add logistics expenses and all that. So when we began, we did it through her company. So she used to purchase them from the farms. And by the way, how did we know which are the farms to work with? The referrals we got from this exporter. She's already exporting, so she already knows the farms that are best to work with. So she mentioned a few. We went, we approached them, and then we began the consignment. But even as we grow, you also get to know other farms that you can partner with. So the first one we began was through referrals from someone who is already exporting. They definitely know the quality that's offered with the different farms. So we did it through her. How will I say it was? It was seamless because now we had someone who already knows how it's done. So that's how we began, because we did not want to mess the first shipment, because the first appearance, as we normally say, it says a lot about you. So it went successfully. We also partnered with a logistics firm. Freight forwarders who are going to help us to ship the produce. So she also helped us to know which one can we work with. And we worked with them, and it was seamless. There are people we actually partner till date.
Right. So what is coming out very clearly, it's very important also to work with other people as you get into the export market. Usiingie tu na nguvu yako thinking you'll figure it out on your own. So just also emphasize on why it's very important and how young people can partner with other people wakiingia kwa hii sector ya export market. The ecosystem in the export market.
So when we talk about exports, you cannot thrive alone. And you can't do all the processes alone. I am an exporter, but don't give me things to do with logistics. I might have very little knowledge about it because it's not my area of prowess. So when we talk about the ecosystem of exports, just to break it down, it begins from the farm, of course, because the produce has to be farmed in order for it to exist and for it to be exported. Then we go to the aggregators or the exporters. We can also talk about cooperatives, because for products like coffee and tea, it's best if you're a farmer to sell them to cooperatives, and then now they sell them to the auctions and all that. So we are talking about aggregators or exporters. An aggregator can also be an exporter. An exporter can also be an aggregator. What do I mean? That you can purchase the supply from different farmers, then you export. Then we have people who are in warehousing and logistics, you know, clearing and forwarding. They have to ensure that you've gotten it all right, the packaging has been done properly, the processing, if anything is being processed, it's been done right. Let's also talk about government institutions like the Kenya Revenue Authority. It's very important for you to understand there is VAT, there is clearance and all that. Financial institutions are also part of the ecosystem, because you are going to maybe transact some of these things not through cash. One, you are dealing with different currencies. You're not going to be selling things in the export market in Kenya shillings. You're doing it in the US dollar, euros, the pounds and all that. So you need a financial institution that actually tells you this is what you do. You might need some loans for, you know, the pre-shipment.
Yes.
Working capital. So financial institutions really come in handy. Even for us in exports, there's something we call letter of credit, because not all amount is given to you in cash, because you know also of trust and all that. And then finally, the consumer or the market, the buyer. Yeah. So some of the buyers are personal buyers, others are retails, others are, you know, wholesalers, others are florists. So there's so many categories of consumers. So I think I'd break down the export value chain in that manner.
Right. And so for the flowers, ule ambaye pengine ako flower farming anataka kujua the demand in the international market is which type of flower. And I know there are many people also who wonder, how does a flower leave Kenya na inafika wherever it's going to the USA while it's still very fresh? Maybe you can help them understand the demand and also that process of taking it there.
So remember I mentioned that Kenya is the third largest producer of flowers in the world. It's actually the first largest producer in Africa. So we are really known for our flowers because of our altitude. Our climate is very good. So flowers do so well in the export market, mainly to European countries, Europe, Middle East, America, and also Asia. But the ones that really dominate is Europe, Netherlands, Germany, UK, name all those countries we export there. We export in bulk. Someone might be asking, how does the flower get to the other side fresh? When I talk about logistics, there are cold rooms and temperature controls. So even if you want your flowers to get fresh on the other side, there are those controls, whether in the airlines, there are some who actually do them by sea. So there are temperature control systems, meaning if it's supposed to be within 2 degrees Celsius to 3 degrees Celsius, that has already been programmed. So that's done by the logistics side, the airlines, the sea lines and all that. Number 2, how does the flower leave the farm? So once it has been harvested, it's pre-cooled, and then it's also shipped by road through temperature controlled means or modes of transport. Once it gets to the airport, it's also secured under temperature controlled warehousing, so to say, you know, so everything has to be regulated. And then a client is going to tell you how they want their flowers to arrive on the other side. We normally have something we call cut stages. I'll say bad because of kila mtu mwenye anataka kujua. So hizi cut stages zinakuanga sana sana ni mara 4. There is cut stage 1, cut stage 2, 3 and 4. So it's basically how the flower has bloomed. Kuna mwingine anataka ifike bado ikiwa closed, so that within the time of shipment, by the time it's arriving there, it's at least bloomed a bit. Then by the time they are preparing it for the stores or for the florist, it's the way they'd want it to be, you know. So you cannot let that flower leave when it's already fully bloomed. By the time it's getting there, it might not have a good quality vase life. So they're going to tell you, we want the flower at cut stage 2. We want it at cut stage 3. And they also demonstrate that even farms are going to help you understand. And you actually tell the farm, I want the flowers being at cut stage 2. They already understand these things. They ensure it's prepared in that manner. So is it the responsibility of the exporter, the way you said, ikitoka kwa shamba, when it's being transported by road, of course the temperatures are already controlled in the means of transport that it's going through, ikifika pale kwa airport, during the waiting period, still in a warehouse that adheres to the temperature that is required. Are you the one who organizes all that, or now that's where the different key players come together? Okay, both ways work. You can decide to organize it all together as yourself. Okay, I believe it's important at times, hata flower farm ikikuambia maua ishafika airport, you should be at the airport actually and saying, gari iko wapi, sioni, and all that. So it's very important for you to be involved in every process. Don't assume, because the buyer knows you. The buyer doesn't know the logistics team. They don't know the farmer. It's you they know. So you need to be very keen and very engaged from the beginning of the process to the end.
Right.
Number 2, also don't do it alone. Have the experts.
Yeah.
You know, if it's flower farms, they already know at a 2 degrees Celsius ni gani. Don't assume you know something. So we normally get into contracts that safeguard you from the different issues that can come in between. And also farms, they wouldn't want the flowers to go bad on their end. So everyone is really trying to deliver. Even logistics, have them there to help you to understand and know hizi zimefika, zimewekwa kwa warehouse, the temperature imeregulatiwa hivi. We normally go and check them ourselves. Mmesema boxes 10 zimefika. I'm here and I count them 1, 2, 3 all the way to 10. So be there to counter check.
So are they the ones who also do the packaging?
Yes, they do the packaging. Yeah, in most cases, they normally provide their boxes with their, you know, their logos and all that.
Who's providing these boxes?
The farms.
Oh, the farms where you're taking the flowers from.
Yes.
They provide the boxes. So they cut, kuna venye wanakatakata the excess leaves, blah, blah, blah. They pack the boxes and then they bring to you when, so ulete wangi tu maua hivyo.
Apana, in most cases, all this process is done from the farm. Because flowers are delicate. You also don't want it going through many hands. Everyone is touching and plucking this and that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And the same thing for avocados as well. The fruits, I see they're also packed at the factories with the processors before they're taken to the export market. So the packaging happens way, way, way before it gets to the airport. Pengine utuambie kwa ule mtu anashanga, coffee and tea, which you also export. You get your coffee from Nairobi Coffee Exchange and also your tea from the auction. Hapo mnazipata pia kama tayari they're already bagged. Just make it clear for us so we get to see how it is by the time it's getting to me as the exporter.
Okay, so you know, let's talk about coffee. Coffee, you can sell it in different stages. Unroasted, roasted, instant, it depends. So what does your client want? Assuming they want just the unroasted one, that one goes in the gunias, the sacks, 50 kg bags, the jute bags. So here in Endanga Ivo, it's just packed, and that's normally packed from the auction. So you don't need to come in and pack. Not unless you want to do maybe ready to sell packages. Nona kama ketepa, the ones they and all that. So if you want to process and to value add, now that can be done from special economic zones. You just partner with processing farms that are going to help you to package it and to value add whatever produce you are working on. But if you just want it to live when it's in bags and in bulk, we just get them from the auction. They are put, they are transported by sea and they are ready to go.
So at no one point nitakuja pale kwa airport nipate ndo mnafanya packaging. By the time it's coming to you, it's already packed. We normally prefer it that way. Great. So I want to take a few questions, but before that, just in a minute, I want you to break down for us. Umesema si lazima nikuwe mkulima for me to be an exporter. Tayari kuna mtu anasema, Fuchs, right? Because they see the opportunity there. But there are things you need to have, all right? Otherwise, you won't be able to export. All right. So break down for us when it comes to certificate and licenses that you require. There are contracts that you need to show. You've already told us opening a business, having your KRA, registering the business, and we've had those conversations here. Kwa wale wamekuwa kisikiza ama
registration of the business, KRA. Now, assuming we are talking about flowers, first and foremost, you need to acquire the horticultural export license. Or export permit, the word yenye utatumia tu, but export license. This is the document that certifies you to export. It identifies you as an exporter. You get?
Hii license unapewa na nani?
Hii unapatiwa na Horticultural Crops Directorate, HCD, which is under Agriculture and Food Authority, AFA.
Is it annual? Is it seasonal? Is it per shipment?
It's annual. Now the export license is annual and renewable as well. So by the time unakaribia, either the end of the term, they normally even indicate the expiry date on the license. So by the time inakaribia usingoje expire ndio, you can also renew like a month before. For example, tea, you have to renew it a month before. So you don't wait for the time to lapse. And for tea, huwa ina lapse at the end of every financial year. So even if ulikuwa umeacquire June, July lazima I mean if it was May, June lazima ina expire. So you also need to
do your math
to
very
do your math
well.
very
Okay,
well.
that's a good point to highlight.
Yeah.
So yeah, umesema ya flowers, and I believe then anyone who's doing horticulture
Okay,
would
horticulture.
require the horticultural export license.
Yes.
And that's
but
from
now under horticulture there are sub categories depending on the produce you're working on. Now for flowers, it's going to tell you horticulture export license, fresh cut flowers.
Okay.
If it's avocados, horticulture export license, avocados.
Right.
Herbs, vegetables. So there are also those sub categories.
Okay.
Yeah.
So siwezi enda tu nichukue horticultural export license and I assume na imeandikwa flowers, like yours it's for flowers, and then I assume tomatoes is horticulture. I'll use the same certificate to export that.
Yeah.
That won't work.
It won't work.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So ya kwanza ni horticulture export license from HCD. It's annual. Rough figure, how much should a young person probably need? A rough estimate?
Okay, the license itself, I can't remember correctly, but it was, I think, 10,000 or 20,000, but it wasn't beyond that.
Okay, thereabouts, between 10
but
to 20.
But of course, there are costs that you're going to incur in between, because for you to get that license, there are documents you need to present. So of course, certificate of incorporation, KRA, hizo lazima. A contract with the buyer to show that they want to buy flowers from you, because you just can't go licensing everyone simply because you want to have a license. There needs to be proof of why you require this particular license.
Right.
Then you also...
Can it be more than... Does it have to be many buyers ama hata buyer moja?
Just one.
Oh, just one?
Yeah, just one. And just a contract that states that I am buyer so-and-so from this country and I'm willing to buy 10,000, 100,000 stamps per month from Novel Blooms Limited and all that.
All right.
Another contract you will need to showcase is a contract with a flower farm.
Okay.
And you need to also identify farms that are compliant. When you're already, they are licensed by HCD and the relevant bodies.
Right.
Because, you know, there are also other certifications that are normally required by different international markets.
Yes.
So it's important you also work with farms that have those certifications.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So once you have the horticultural export license, which was given by HCD, what's the other license that you need? Now, usha present the certificates that you mentioned from your KRA, your tax compliance, your registration of the company.
Yeah.
What other license do I need? Ama hii imetosha?
Okay, those are the main ones.
Okay.
Acha pia niongeze business permit, because it's also important. If we're talking about compliance, be compliant all through.
All right.
So something else, now these are they're just per consignment certifications. And you're normally given by KEFIS.
Right.
KEFIS stands for Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service. They normally inspect the produce before they exit to export markets to ensure that they are free from pests and diseases, that they meet the standards and the qualifications required. So KEFIS, they normally inspect the produce zikifika either airport ama seaport. So hata maua tukileta zifike JKIA before zinapakiwa to the freight forwarders na zinaekwa kwa ndege, a KEFIS official has to come and inspect. So they normally like take maybe some few pieces from the boxes, they look at them. There's how they do it. They are well certified to do all that. Those tests and all that.
Right, and they'll give you the certificate for that.
Yes.
So is this one per shipment annually?
Per shipment. Now this is per shipment.
Right.
Yeah.
And do I need to show the buyer that KEFIS was here?
Yes. These are things you have to present to the client. Yeah.
All right, great. So now we understand the certificates. As we digest that, let us look at the feedback from our online community. What are they asking? Kuna moja hapa anasema, Nash anasema, I do sweet potato farming in Migori. I would like to get to international markets without using brokers. What are the steps? Right? Have you seen us exporting sweet potatoes?
Not really, but I cannot just say that it's not exported.
Exportable.
There are definitely markets that are taking them.
Yeah.
But kuna kitu amesema about brokers. I think it's an analogy that's out there, because exporters, anyway, it's a good name for broker.
Is it broker? Is it middleman? Is it others call themselves marketing agents?
And let me say this, for a start, it is wisest you work with them. You might feel like you are chucking a lot of money kwao, lakini they have access to the markets. They have some of the information that you might not have as a first time exporter, you get? So I think and I believe it's important you first work with them. Let them hold your hand along the way. I said this and I'm going to insist. Exports cannot exist by itself. It's an ecosystem.
That's
so
true.
You'll definitely need to collaborate with the key players. Otherwise, they're not going to give you the information, because you see now you also want to know which market do I export sweet potatoes to. Those brokers know exactly the markets to export them to.
And I hear you. And that's true, 100%. But I also understand a farmer, because for many years they have been exploited by brokers in such a way. Unapata broker or huyo mtu wa katikati anaendea, let's say, a mango from a farmer at 2 shillings per piece.
I think what is required to be done, let me give and cite an example. You see, tea and coffee, we do not buy directly from the farmers. You must go through the auction or the cooperatives. That safeguards the farmer such that atapata what is rightfully due to them. So I think even when it comes to the vegetables, there needs to be associations or cooperatives where they are able to structure the whole process such that everyone gets what they require. But tukisema ati kila wakati ni exporter, of course atafinyilia, wengi wao watafinyilia. But when you find regulated systems, even flowers, akunanga mlango wa nyuma, the price is the price and the farmer gets what's rightfully due to them.
Right. Yeah, so that's true. I feel like there are some agri sectors like coffee, tea, flowers which are very well
macadamia
regulated, and then there are others, especially in the horticultural sector, where the regulation is not, there's no structure. Market prices can change in an hour, and it becomes very hard to make sure the farmer gets there, right? So number one, we can start with the cooperatives. It will help, right? So let's look at Waita. I am a fruit farmer. I do Kalina papaya IBP9. That's a variety that they do, currently selling locally. I'm looking to explore export options. Where can somebody start? We export a lot of fruits, popo, ndio hiyo hapo. Maybe you can just give them a clue on how to meet fruit exporters. How do they go about it? How do you source them? If I'm looking for the information, leo watu watakuona hapa, but you're doing flowers, coffee and tea. How do I access wale ambao wanapeleka fruits? I'm sure you know them. Where are they found? Ndio Waita ajue how to connect herself with them.
You can decide to connect yourself with exporters. You can also decide to seek direct market. And you know, the tools are online. You just use the B2B platforms. Ukiangalia, maybe even Alibaba, maybe they buy these things like e-commerce platforms. That is one. But at times it's a bit slow because securing the client directly is very hard. And that's why exporters are very essential. So, mimi venye nilisema, as it was by chance tulimpata. Lakini, I'll give you a hint. You see, when you come to like the airport, there is a whole cargo center. Achana na ile ya passengers and all. There's a whole cargo center. Ukienda huko, most of those offices there are owned by exporters. So at times you do the walk-ins.
They'll allow?
They imagine they do. Okay, me, to be honest, even me hata nikiwa huko, there are times I walk around and visit different exporters. At times you're just going to even interact with them kwa lift, kwa barabara and all that. So now that's also another way. So you get to identify ni place gani exporters wanakuanga wengi. Definitely airports, seaports, hata pale Mombasa utapata wengi. At times, another suggestion. Which I think is key, and we also applied it. You go to the Horticultural Crops Directorate offices. You can also see a KEFIS official. They know. So those are, and by the way, they are very helpful. Mimi, I interacted with one. I won't mention his name but he really assisted us to acquire that license. So that's also another pathway.
Waita, there you go. Just walk to the airport. Si lazima uende airport ka unaenda Mombasa. You can just go there and go to the cargo side. You'll meet exporters. Also, I see a lot of conferences. You attended one the other day and it was a room full of exporters. That's another opportunity. All right. So Brian anasema, I am Brian from Kisii and interested in herbs farming, but I fear the market opportunity. Basil, rosemary. How can I find connections? First of all, that's a prime agri sector. All right. So anataka connections. Maybe you can emphasize on those connections as much as you've mentioned them already, but ongelesha Brian personally.
So Brian, hivi ndivyo nitakwambia. You'll have to collaborate with different players within the system. You might not be able to meet an exporter ujue hata nitamtoa wapi, but when I mentioned Agriculture and Food Authority, Horticultural Crops Directorate, these are people who have all this information. So they will be able to guide you and tell you actually the available markets ni hizi. Let me tell you, I think at times young people huwa tuna discard government agencies a lot because we conclude they are not going to assist us, but these people are primarily there to help us. So I think that's the very first place. You see, even, how do we call them? These agricultural extension officers and all that.
Yes.
They have this information, they have these
people.
links here.
All right.
Ama pia, you know a farmer who's already exporting herbs, also approach that
them.
person.
All right. And there's so many of them. And nowadays they're online, marketing their business on social media platforms. So Brian, get out there, let people see you, network, and you'll definitely get a clue. But I believe for small farmers, especially wale ambao tunazungumza nao siku ya leo, a lot of them are young and they're starting up. Let them not get into this without being in cooperatives. Because also volumes, you know, also for export market, uwezi peleka
it's about volumes,
ama packet mbili ya kahawa, right? So be in cooperative society, form cooperative societies with your members. You only need to be about 10 of you to start a cooperative society, and then that way hata kupata hiyo usaidizi it's easier because you're coming strong as a society. Sindio? All right. Brian tena nauliza, is it smarter to export raw, semi-processed or branded retail packs from Kenya?
You know, the three methods are okay and they are good, but value addition is where you fetch good, proper, premium prices. In fact, the Agriculture CS Mutahi Kagwe is insisting that we transit from bulk and raw commodities to value-added products, you know, and it also creates jobs in the process. But this is what I say, it can be capital intensive to decide to process and value add. So if you're not able to do it now, start with raw. Master the markets, master what you need to do, then you advance from there.
Of course, value addition any day. But kuna mtu hapo amekupatia compliment, amesema I love how Ellen knows her stuff. There you go, girl. Watu wanafurahi sana kusikia maneno yako siku ya leo. Thank you so much. Alafu tena tusaidie Patrick, anasema how do you hunt for foreign markets while you're still in Kenya? How will I form a relationship with someone in Dubai?
Let me say this. Kenya has really advanced. If you look at the number of expos and exhibitions that just happen in Kenya, within 1 month, there are like 5-6 of them. So you need to really go and step out there and meet with them. Like right now, whatever is happening is between Kenya and Saudi Arabia. They are here. If you cannot handle the expenses to travel to Saudi Arabia, wameletwa hapa. So you also have to be very observant and know what exhibitions are happening and all that. So that is one way. 2, online B2B platforms. Squeezy, technology has really isn't things for us. So hata ukiresearch up, hata ChatGPT inakupeanga tu siri. Let me tell you, I have a particular client that I sourced from ChatGPT, and I wrote an email to them and everything, and we began conversing. So online platforms are also there to assist us.
All right, so young people go out, attend conferences. Juzi kulikuwa na Kenya Meat Conference. It brought all the meat exporters. Agritech happened at KICC the other day. So please, usikae hapo kwa nyumba tu kingoja exporter kugonge mlango. Go out, right? So let's talk about financing and banking support and how crucial they have been in your export business. A lot of times young people will shy away from handling such kind of business because they feel we don't have the money yet. So how can banks come in? And even atokiwa na pesa, as you're doing your transactions with the different buyers across the world, how do banks help in safeguarding you as the exporter and minimizing your risks as well?
So if you're an exporter, it's very important and wise to work with financial institutions, banks, SACCOs. They are willing to assist you. I must mention out one in particular, Cooperative Bank. So they actually really assist agricultural people within the agricultural space. So
Yeah.
that is one institution that can assist you in terms of also securing loans to help you, get working capital, input, fertilizers. You want to buy some farm mechanization equipment.
Yeah.
So they also give you loans that you're able to use. Number two, financial institutions are also there to equip us to learn. You see, like this forum we are having right now, it has been sponsored by a financial institution. So they also are there to help you to understand, if you want to access a certain market, how do I go about it?
Right.
Digital payment systems. Ndio usicheleweshe pia wakulima pesa na nini. They are able to assist you. They also help you to finance your cooperatives, your societies and all that. Now let us major on exports.
Yes.
In exports, they offer export and trade financing. There is something we call a letter of credit.
Right.
There is telegraphic transfer. There are bank guarantees. There are invoice discounting. So many things. Pre-shipment loans. Maybe unahitaji 5 million ndo uanze juu unajua not all buyers are going to give you the money up front. So you go and secure against the contract. You show the contract. Some buyers actually also give you a bank guarantee. So ukipeleka, bank itakupatia pesa. You are able to source the produce. Once imefika pale, you are paid the entire amount. So this is what I'd advise. Partner with financial institutions. They will give you a breakdown on what do you require and what will you expect from them. And they give us all the assistance that we need. Yeah.
Okay, so vijana umesikia, also make sure you build a relationship with the bank. One of the episodes that we did here on the program was on how banks can help you grow your businesses. Na unasikia from an exporter, they really come in handy, and it's very important to make them your best friend as you do this business. Now let's talk about payment. All right, so shipment ndio hiyo unapeleka pale UAE. When does the money check in? Do I ask for the full payment upfront? Kama ni discount, mnaongeanga discount. Kama ni down payment, how does it look like? So help us understand the payment terms. Now how do you safeguard yourself from scammers as well? Usipeleke mtu kule kahawa alafu akose kukulipa, you go all the loss. Expound on that.
Okay, so when it comes to payments, there are different payment structures. It's not a must that you biblically work with this mode. So in flowers, we strictly do advance payments. But why? Si ati tunajipenda. It's because flowers, the time of transit can be at most 3 days. So unaona hiyo wezi anza kuambia mtu ekelea 20% nini, like you and then you also have to pay the farm upfront. Wanaleta maua, that's a one day thing. Then the following day ama hata hiyo usiku tu zimeekwa kwa ndege, zimefanya nini, zimetoka. So it's a very short kind of affair. So for that we normally do advance payments. But it doesn't mean anti sasa kuna client atakwambia ai na sikujui, it's our first time doing the shipment. You don't discredit them. You come up with a structure. Now letters of credit, they also come in. Na zinaekwa a good timeline, such that even within after 3 days after kila kitu imefanywa, you are able to be paid to receive your money, For things that we do in bulk and that we do by sea, now they involve a lot of money first and foremost. You can find that a shipment ya kahawa to like a 20-foot container might be costing 5 to 10 million. It's quite an amount. So you cannot tell a client alipe upfront. Juhini kitu maybe ata receive 40 days from the day it's released from the port of Mombasa, So you normally structure it. Tunamwambia lipa 20% deposit. Hiyo 20 make sure ndio inakusaidia ku purchase the produce. If it's coffee, there are 100, 200 bags, And then unamwambia sasa nimepurchase, imeinspectiwa, it's been loaded to the container or to the container. So once it's loaded, unamwambia sasa ekelea 40%. I'm just throwing figures. But
okay.
Then sasa after imeachiliwa, the container has been sealed, amepata, there's something called a bill of lading. In air freight, we call it airway bill. Inakuanga hata na tracking number. The buyer is able to track their consignment. So you can tell them, you pay now the remaining amount against the bill of lading, against the airway bill. Ju sasa hiyo ni guarantee imesha, na hiyo it's the airline or the sea line that issues it to show that we have received this produce and it's now ready to transit.
Great. So you can have different payment agreements with your different buyers. It's not cast in stone. Venye mtaelewana nyinyi muelewane hivyo, si ndio?
But I think to give a disclaimer, pia usijipende.
Okay.
You know, so si kila wakati unaambia client unamfinyilia tuma juu unaogopa. And something else, carry out your due diligence even before engaging in anything with a buyer.
A red flag that you should look out for in a buyer?
They should have at least an import permit or license. They should be a registered company. And you know, there's how you can verify all this information. So uliza client hizi vitu. Akianza kukuambia hana import license na already don't.
Ngoja kidogo.
Yeah, so once ume verify, so you normally carry out due diligence even before getting into contracts. Juu utaingia kwa contract, hauku carry out due diligence, inaanza kuwa many legal issues that are not necessary that you could have avoided.
All right. Yeah. So what goes by flight, what goes by sea? Maybe you can clarify that. Na unajua sisi wakulima kwa boot
produce, please do them by air. It's faster.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. If it's something that can take like coffee, tea, even 6 months, hizo unaweza fanya by sea. But one thing that makes us choose what freight method to use is also the bulkiness, the quantity of the produce. You cannot start shipping 1,000 bulk bags of coffee by air. It's even very expensive, you know. So that one, do it by sea. Yeah. Avocados, kama unapeleka small pallets zenye maybe the buyer anataka haraka, it can go by air. If you're taking huge pallets that can go by sea, it can also go by sea. Yeah. But you make sure if you're doing it by sea, your produce inaweza survive the 20, 30, 40 days, you know. So even the cut stage, yani the stage at which that produce is by the time it's leaving also matters a lot.
We do a lot of live animals as well.
Yeah, and live that one no, for live animals, they go by both. You can also charter a flight. Yes, the options are there. Yes,
alive.
Even doper ship. I know someone who's done several doper ship to Middle East by chartering flights. That is one.
To know if they get a jet lag. Do animals get jet lag?
Kuna venye pia huwa zinafungwa, and then also wanyama huwa they have to undergo mandatory vaccination of like 21 days, you know. But most people do it by sea. Zinakwanga na chakula na kila, all those expenses na huwa zimekwa kwa when you are costing everything with the client.
All right, great. Now talk to us about a mistake that you made when you were starting out. You from how you're talking, you have it all together. But I'm sure haukuanzia from this point where you got it. Kuna makosa pengine ulifanya pale so that young person who's inspired to get into exporting, they don't make that same mistake again. Probably a mistake you made, what would you say that was?
Okay, I've made several mistakes, of course. One is not understanding the foreign exchange. Unajua, you're not selling things to them in Kenya shillings. So umezoea kuongea mambo ya dhao mbili nini, pale they're talking about 100 USD, 100 euros and all. So struggling to do the conversions of the currencies. It took me time, but at least now I'm able to do it smoothly, but it comes with time. So invoicing, wakati mwingine unapata you're supposed to write 150 USD, umeandika 15 USD. That's a whole difference. I have ever worked with someone who made a mistake that had a difference of 2 million. And we have already told the client, hii ndio final invoice.
Oh no.
Now how do you go and tell a client, sasa utaongezea mitangapi?
2 million.
Mbili. It was very hard. So even when you are engaging with other exporters or other players in the system, please verify them.
Okay.
Mtu tu asikwambie mi exporter mnoma sana, mi hakuna kitu sijui. Verify them by the work that they do.
All right.
Don't just assume simply because it's word of mouth, it's it. No, you need to thoroughly verify them. So that is also another issue we encountered. Ingine ni there's a place you are shipping to that we needed a certificate of origin. A COMESA state and also EAC. Kumbe hata hauko unajua hata certificate of origin inatafutwa aje.
Oh no.
So tena mnaanza. Good thing we realized it on time.
Okay.
Otherwise tungekuwa flowers already zimefika na hamjui hiyo nini. So it's very important pia you stay up to date. Something else, in case of any geopolitical tensions and everything, be in the know. Isikue US Iran inafanyika, you don't have an idea. You know what that did? Airspace closures. Sasa wewe unaambia client, wewe tuma pesa, tuma maua itafika, then that thing happens. Ama it happens and already you knew. Some mistakes you can avoid them from the onset.
All right. And also what you've just said that I've picked is different countries, different requirements.
Yes.
All right. So not the same certificates that are required in USA is the same ones that you'll give when taken to China.
In fact, let me say it this way. Different countries, different requirements. That is one. Number two, different buyers, different requirements. requirements. You can have 5 buyers from Middle East, but they all require different things from you. So don't assume ati clients wote wa Dubai hii ndio wanataka, and what, get to know from the buyer themselves.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. As we come towards the last part of this conversation, wacha tuangalie watu pale online wanasema nini. Nelson anauliza, what about the quantity of produce to export? What's the minimum and maximum amount for the best profit margin? Good question. Maximum pia.
Okay, sasa siwezi, I cannot like really give you the minimums and the maximums. For us, like in our company for flowers, a minimum of 10,000 stems. 10,000. Below that, it's not going to be financially feasible for us. For avocados, you can even do small pallets, even 5 kg, 10 kg and all that. So hakunanga ati kitu imesetiwa, but it's important. Now this is where freight forwarders and logistics people come in. They will advise you on what is the minimum order quantity. Juu kuna ingine, unajua sasa kama ndege, they charge like per kg. The logistics, the air freight is per kg. So if you do even a 200 grams, utachajiwa the same amount with a 1 kilogram. It's very expensive. So it's important for you to know. Now these are things you can get from logistics personnel, freight forwarders. They are able to advise you better. But try to avoid profit margins in exports are in volumes. But si lazima uanze na 10 containers, 20 containers. Begin from where you can.
And get the advice from the logistics. And, great. So in case nipeleke kitu mbaya kule, najua kabisa zile standards ambazo European Union want. They don't want this kind of pesticide use, they don't want this kind of fertilizer use, or the EUDR is coming up for coffee, and then there you go, your produce is already there and it's rejected. Okay, so what happens after that?
You know, in most cases, even rejections don't happen on the buyer's end. They happen here at our airports and seaports, because remember I mentioned KEFIS. They thoroughly inspect the produce. So when I'm making sure some of the obvious mistakes, that produce will not leave the country until it's properly investigated and all that. But assuming that happens, which should not happen as an exporter, because you already know everything that you need to do. It can really cost you financial implications, because kama the produce is bad, that is not on the buyer, it's on you, the exporter. So you're the one who's going to shoulder the burden. There are things we call force majeure. The forces of nature. Let's say US-Iran war happened when your goods were already in transit. Now, see mistake yako, see mistake ya buyer. Now, this is where insurance comes in. So it's important for you to also insure your goods, whether they are going by air or by sea, because anything happens. But you make sure that the mistake is not from your end. Ati maua, by the time ni mbaya, you should notice it even before KEFIS notices it, you know?
All right. And on that topic of insurance, we had a very extensive one the other time. We were talking about crops and livestock insurance. It's very important. Don't assume just because you have an insurance for exporting that they'll cover for conflicts. You have to make sure that is stated in your agreement, your terms. Do asiseme, but I have a crop insurance or the exporting insurance, and then the geopolitical wars happen. So please make sure it is well indicated in your terms and agreements with your insurance company. Otherwise, some of those scenarios are not insured by them. All right, so as we wrap up, my God, I feel like we need a part 2, but we have to wrap up now. So talk to the young people. Many people, me being number one, I'm inspired by a 26-year-old doing this great, right? And there's so many other people who are inspired as well. Talk to them on how they can find their footing. Wanzie wapi. Kuna mtu anasema, I want to be like Ellen, all right? Or even better than Ellen. What do you advise them?
Sasa nitaangalia kamera niongee na the young people. This is what I'll advise you. Even when you see a successful exporter, we did not begin this successful. I also struggled. I made my fair share of mistakes, which always happens, and it is normal. You have to be willing as a young person to learn and relearn. Be willing to collaborate with different players within exports. Don't assume that you can walk in this journey alone. Get people. And I'm going to tell you this. There are people who are willing and ready to support you in this journey that you want to begin of exports. Something else. I want you to see agriculture not in the traditional way, but see it in an innovative, trendy way. Nowadays we are doing precision agriculture, smart farming, drip irrigation. Squeeze yata farmers, you find a young farmer ana milk the cows TikTok live, you know. So I want you to be very innovative in how you approach agriculture, and also see it as an agribusiness. It's agriculture but agribusiness. So what is the profitability that can come with kuweka kuku, kuweka hata kama ni mbuzi mbili. Alafu exports is very broad. Si lazima ukue mkulima. You can be an aggregator. You can be someone who links people to markets. You can be in logistics. You can be in warehousing. You can even work in KRA. You're still supporting exports because we need those clearing and forwarding agents. Tunataka hata watu majenzi wako pale TikTok live, Instagram, sharing insights, writing articles about exporting. You are also part of making the ecosystem a success. So don't just focus on one aspect of it. There are so many opportunities within exports, and it's not hard. It's not impossible. If I am doing it, you can definitely do it.
My God, we just wrap up. What else am I supposed to say? Oh, well done. Well done, Ellen. Thank you so much for being very generous with the information. I'm sure there is a whole generation that you have inspired today. I'm going to wrap up by talking to farmers, my favorite people. You actually control the market. You might think it's the exporter who's controlling the export market. You are. And that is because you'll realize when we start exporting things that are not right, bad fruits, premature fruit, they close the market, and exporters are not in business, all right? And we lose the revenue, we lose, you know, all the prime market that we have. So let us play our part by making sure our husbandry in the farm is good. You keep exporters in business, you keep the company running. So please, please, please be very keen with what you're harvesting, what you're aggregating. Make sure it's the standards that are required in the international market, because if not, if you don't do that, they close the market, we don't have the market. So keep creating good names for Kenyan produce in the international market. And the young people, let's start exporting our produce. Thank you so much for watching. Nice, but tutakutana next week Friday with a lot more. Goodbye.